forms of poetry? Aiden, give me one.
I know funny poems.
Okay, humorous. Okay. Do I remember? Bella, do you remember one?
I think it was called lyrics or something.
Lyrical. Okay. Do you remember one that starts with an N? Emily?
Narrative. I was just looking at it in my photos.
Narrative. And then, if y'all remember my last one, it's the one that has no rules. Do you remember what it's called? Ali, what's it called?
Free verse.
Free verse. So if you remember, these are my 4 different forms of poetry that we're going to see in 3rd grade, okay? So humorous, we remember, is funny or silly. Lyrical is a song. Narrative is a story. And free verse has no rules. Free verse has no rules. All right, so those are our different forms of poetry we've talked about, okay? So what about our poetry basics? What do we remember about those? There's 5 steps. Who remembers our 5 steps? Ali, what's one of them? Or what's the first one?
The first one is read and circle the title.
The first one is read and circle the title. Okay. What's the second one? Aiden, what's the second one?
Number the lines and stanzas.
Number the lines and stanzas. Okay, what's the third one? Bella? Read the poem. Okay. What do I have to do after I read the poem? What do I do after I read the poem? Let's see, I know Aiden, Ali, and Bella know. Does anybody else know? Walter, what do I need to do after I read the poem?
Think about it.
Okay, that's step 5. Think and write. About the poem. Okay. So what's 4? Brayden, what's 4?
Circle the rhyming words.
Circle the rhyming words. So those are our poetry basics. That's what we're going to do every time we see a poem. Every time we see a poem. All right. So we're going to do a poem. Okay, we're going to practice one. And then after we're done with our poem, we are trying to see which one I want to use. After we're done with our poem, we are going to take our word study assessment, and then we will move on to writing. All right, so let's look at this poem. Let's look at it. All right, so I know poetry basics, right? I need to, well, actually, so this actually doesn't have a title. I didn't realize that these actually don't have titles on them. It's probably called homework, more than likely, I think. So we'll skip the title because it doesn't have one. What about, so what's step 2? What's the next thing I need to do? What's the next thing I need to do? Obina, what's the next thing I need to do?
Lines and stanzas.
Number the lines and stanzas, right? So sometimes I like to do the stanzas first, but you can also do the lines first. It does not matter. You do whatever you feel like is easier. Okay. All right. Then what do I need to do? Ollie, then what do I need to do?
Read the poem.
Read the poem. It feels like a rock, too heavy to lift, weighing me down. A sticky piece of gum on the bottom of my shoe. A little sister tormenting me, annoying me, always there. Endless words, endless paper, endless due dates. Why do you torture me, homework? Okay, then what do I need to do? Bella?
Circle the words.
Okay, well, here's my question for you.
This is free verse.
Ooh, Walter, say that again.
This is free verse
Why is it free verse?
because there's no rhyming words and there's basically no rules.
Good job. So this is free verse because we know as we were reading this poem, there are no rhyming words in this poem. So this poem is free verse. Okay. All right. So as soon as I do this one, circle the rhyming words. If I know there's no rhyming words, then it is free verse. I am just going to go ahead and write free verse at the top. So I can go ahead and say, you know what? This has no rules on it. So I'm going to go ahead and put free verse. All right. Then what do I need to do? What's my last step? Emily, what's my last step?
Think and write about the poem.
Think and write about the poem. Okay. So what is this poem about?
It is about someone having a rough life.
A rough life because of
Homework.
homework, right? So this is about how homework is causing and I kind of like what Emily said, rough life. It's kind of a good way to put it. All right, so now let's go through and I want to answer these 3 questions to kind of really dig deeper into this poem, okay? So what is the author's mood or feeling? What kind of mood or feeling are you getting from the author based on this poem, based on how he talks? Ollie, what kind of feeling are you getting from the poem?
He hates homework.
Right? He hates homework, right? So what kind of feeling could I give him? He's probably pretty
Annoyed.
annoyed,
Negative.
negative, annoyed, negative.
Miss Chandler,
Yes.
instead of hate homework, just say he doesn't like homework.
Yeah. Annoyed, negative, maybe even upset. Okay. So now it says highlight text evidence. So how do I know that he's kind of annoyed, negative, upset? What could, Camila, where in my poem does it kind of say that?
I was just gonna say he could be another really okay, actually, he could be that smart because he doesn't like to do his homework.
Okay, maybe. So what kind of evidence is telling me that he's annoyed, negative, and upset? Where in the poem? Think about, look, like right here, it says it's tormenting me, annoying me. Why do you torture me? So there's lots of text evidence, right, that's telling me he's annoyed, negative, and upset. Make sure you're muted. There's someone that's not. I think it's a minute. What is the author comparing? He's comparing homework to 3 different things. What are the 3 different things he compares homework to? In the first stanza, he compares it to a, Ollie?
A rock.
A rock. So in the first stanza, he compares it to a rock. What about in the second stanza? He compares it to what, Aiden?
Gum, 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 gum.
Gum, right? And then in the third stanza, he compares it to Brayden, what does he compare it to in the third stanza? Walter, raise your hand. Brayden, what does that say? Brayden. I'm pointing to it. Oops, I just left a big dot on it. What does it say? All right, Brayden needs some help. Emily, what does it say?
A little sister.
Little sister, right? Okay. So
That was an accident.
What clues suggest the author is referring to homework? How do we know he's referring to homework? What does it say at the very, 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 very end, Ollie?
It says, "Why do you torture me, homework?"
It says, why do you torture me? Homework, right? It says, why do you torture me, homework? So that's how we know he's talking about homework. All right, so do y'all see what I did with this poem? You see how I went through and looked at it? So, and I answered my questions. I did my poetry basics. So this is, I want you to put poetry in your brain and remember it. You're probably not going to need it for another few weeks because we're probably going to talk about it here in a few weeks, but we're going to be actually switching to something different on Monday. So this will be our last poem for a while. So take it in, and I hope you remember everything that we talked about. All right. So
I couldn't hear anything you said.